Alright, welcome everyone back to our Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for Newcomers series. I'm Jokester1801. Today we're doing Chapter 1. So again, this is a series where I'm really targeting it for people who are new to Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, or maybe you just want to kind of watch me play Path of Radiance. That's great too. As I'm targeting it to people who are new to the series, I'm basically just trying to explain the mechanics, give them a taste of what Fire Emblem's like, and try to explain my moves as I go along. So Fire Emblem's a strategy RPG where you're basically moving your units around a grid trying to take out the enemy and trying to keep as many of your units alive as possible. So let's get started. Alright, so we're on Chapter 1 today. The battle begins. Oh, also I'm reading out all of the lines. There's a lot of dialogue in Fire Emblem because there's a lot of characters. But we are doing our best. Good morning, Ike. Today's your first day as a professional soldier, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm ready to go. What you are is late. The others are suited up and ready at the break of dawn. Sorry, I'll get up earlier from now on. So what's my first job? I'm talking with Titania right now. Wait outside until we're done. Yes, sir. Very well, Commander Grail. Shall we continue? You were telling me about some bandits that needed taken care of, weren't you? Correct. The request comes from a nearby village. According to our reports, the bandits are not all that strong. I think it's best if I ride out and take a look. I plan on taking Oscar and Boyd along with me. Just the brothers. Go ahead and add Ike to your team. Shinon, Gatri, and I can handle the other two jobs easily enough. Titania, I'm leaving Ike in your care. I'm trusting you to show him the ropes. Understood, Commander. Come on, Ike, let's get you set up. Alright, my first job. Captain Titania, preparations are complete and I'm ready to go. Impeccable timing. It's nice to know we can always count on you to be at the ready, Oscar. Don't forget about me. I'm ready for action. Is that so, Boyd? That's a surprise. Ha! Not today it isn't. As of today, I'm going to be the absolute model of perfection. I need to set a good example for Ike. I'll take your word for it. Your first campaign at last. I know you've wanted this for a while. Are you nervous, Ike? I think I was more nervous last night. I could hardly sleep. This morning, I'm feeling pretty good. It's like the calm before the storm. You should try to relax. You're not going to be out there alone. Yeah, you're right. Right, everyone ready? Let's go. So this game follows Ike. He's the main character. In most Fire Emblem games, you have a lord who is of noble status. Ike is one of the first, if not the first. No, yeah, he's the first who's not of noble status. Alright, let me explain what's going on. This is a map of Chaldea. They've hired us to drive off some bandits. We're the blue marks here. The red dots are the bandits. More generally, the red dots are the enemies that you take down, and the blue dots are you. There aren't many of them, but we can't get careless. The one in front of the building up north is their leader. Our mission is to take him out and recapture that building. Ike, listen up. All this stuff is old news to me, but I can give a rookie like you a few tips. First off, don't let yourself get worked up and jump out in front of everyone. You'll just end up getting hurt. Don't try to do too much, Ike. When things get dangerous, you can, and should, rely on us. As long as you watch how the enemy moves carefully, you'll be fine. Think of this as a training mission. Break the fourth wall there, you know? I'll do that. Oscar, Boyd, thanks for your help. Don't mention it. Just sit back and watch a professional handle things. Enough chit-chat, you three. We've got work to do. Alright, so we start off with player phase. Ike, before you engage an enemy, take a good look at his weapon. The weapon you use often determines who has the upper hand in a fight. For example, the axe I'm wielding serves me well against lances, but fares less well against swords. And my lance is great against swords, but not against axes. And to complete the triangle, my sword is strong against axes, but weak against lances, right? Yes, exactly. If you can remember that, you'll be more effective in combat. That's just basic, though. This will come in handy soon enough, so don't forget it. Swords over axes. I won't forget. Not if I remember that I'll always have the advantage over you, Boyd. Do you think you could maybe find a different way of remembering? Yeah, thanks. And one more thing, don't forget to visit the locals. We're here to help after all. Villagers should welcome our presence. So yeah, they re-explained the weapon triangle, which I explained last episode. The red roofed, orange roofed houses are ones you can visit, and they give you an item. This more brown roofed are ones you can't visit. So yeah, as I said, most helpfully, Ike has the green arrow against axes, and axes have the red arrow against swords. Again, it tells you when you're picking your weapon. Ike starts with 4 iron swords. They're swords just like the trainer, but they have less hit, a little bit higher might. Now, one thing I didn't explain is this WT stat. That's weight. So, we see here that Ike is doing 8 times 2. So in one round of combat, Ike is going to hit this guy 2 times for 8 damage, and the other guy is just going to do 6 damage. The reason that is happening is because Ike has 7 speed. Now, to determine his attack speed, how much speed he has in a round of combat, attack speed, you'd see whether or not the weight of your weapon is going to affect it. So WT is weight, it's 7. Now, if I do Ike's strength, 6 minus 7, that means he has minus 1. And so we apply that minus 1 to his speed, so 7 minus 1 gives us 6, and that's how much attack speed Ike has. So he has 6 attack speed in a round of combat. Now, in order to do times 2, or as Fire Emblem fans call it, to double someone, you need 4 more attack speed than that person in this game. Sometimes it's different in different Fire Emblem games. So this guy, he has a 10 weight weapon, his iron axe. So 4 minus 10 is minus 6. And so 3 minus 6 means he has 0 attack speed, because you can't have negative. So 0 attack speed. Ike has 6, which lets him do times 2. He doubles. Now Boyd has 10. He gets minus 3 to his speed, which means he has 3 attack speed, right? Because 7 minus 10 is minus 3, 6 minus 3 is 3. And so he actually does not do times 2. He does not double, because you need 4 more. And so even though these guys would technically be negative, it just caps at 0. And so since Boyd's at 3, that means he can't double them. Oscar, on the other hand, he can double them. Now, he does as much as Ike does, because Oscar has 13 attack. He gets minus 1 attack for weapon triangle disadvantage. Ike has 11 attack, but he gets plus 1 for having weapon triangle advantage. Anyway, so that's how we'll calculate that. We'll have Boyd just attack here. So he dealt some damage. He dealt 11. He got hit for 7. We move forward. We'll have Oscar run up here, and he'll attack. And then Ike can finish him off. Poke. Alright, and then Ike's just going to run up here and finish him off. And so it worked out perfectly where Ike does 8 damage and just takes out the bandit, which means that Ike didn't get a counterattack. That's something you want to keep in mind. If you have more fragile units, they could finish off enemies, while your more bulky units weaken the enemies. Ah, you're with the mercenaries, right? Thank you for coming. We've heard a lot about you. Here, take this weapon. We're farmers, not fighters. Maybe you'll get some use from it. So as we see, we just get stuff sometimes. It's kind of nice. And then Titania has a cool ability called Canto, which lets her move again after she attacks or does anything. So all horse units and anyone who's on like a mount, so Pegasus, Wyvern, horses, they can move again after attacking, after trading, anything like that. What's going on out there? Is that some sort of army? Pah! Bunch of mercenaries looking for their next meal. The villagers must have hired them. Listen up, lads. Hurt 'em, and hurt 'em bad. We let this bunch live, and we'll have hordes of hired swords hounding us the rest of our days. It's those fool villagers. They think they can buy a bunch of sellswords to chase us away. It ain't gonna work out how they wanted. All they get for their trouble is a bunch of ruined houses. Tear 'em down, boys. I'll teach 'em. So this teaches us, though, that bandits have the ability to take down houses. So if you don't make it to the house before the bandit does, then you don't get to get the item. Now, in this in this chapter, there's actually no way to make it before that bandit. And that's on purpose. However, there is the potential for us to not make it to another house before a bandit, so we have to be careful. So there's this bandit here. He takes exactly 3 turns to make it to the house, because he has to make it to the entranceway of the house. It's not enough for him to just make it to the front of the house. He has to make it to the entranceway just like we do. So yeah, Boyd here can finish this guy off and not get counterattacked, which is great. Now one thing is that Boyd had an 82% chance to hit, which means on face value he had an 18% chance to miss. So that is one thing to take account of, is whether or not your units have a high chance to miss the enemy. So I'm going to actually have Ike charge forward here. But before he charges forward, he's going to trade here with Titania. So your units can trade items. Now in Path of Radiance, and it's different in most Fire Emblem games, they have 4 weapon slots and then 4 item slots. So Ike starts with 4 iron swords for some reason. And so he can use this steel sword that Titania got. Now it has higher weight than the iron sword, which means Ike has less speed with the steel sword, but it has more might, which means the steel sword does more damage. So it's pretty helpful sometimes. Now one thing to note is Ike, he has in our weapon level thing in the bottom here, he has D swords. So that means he can use up to D swords, which is a steel sword is a D sword. If we look at Titania, she has A axes and C lances. So she can use any axes that are up to A weapon level and C lances. In this game, weapon levels are the bottom most is E, and then it goes all the way up to S as the top. So you got E, D, C, B, A, S. Oscar is C lances and Boyd is D swords. Or D axes, not swords. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind there. We're going to have Oscar actually just take out this guy. Because he can attack and kill the guy without getting attacked back, which is really great. And then, even though Oscar faces weapon triangle disadvantage to this guy has 0 speed, and so Oscar's actually going to do a good amount of damage to him. So we're going to just let Oscar move right here, and then this guy's going to attack Oscar, because Oscar's kind of barricading his way. And then, on the other hand, Titania is going to visit the village. Since those bandits took over, we can't even sleep at night. Please, help us save our village. Here, my mother left me this. I hope it serves you well. A seraph robe. And then Titania's going to move back over here to Ike, just to, in case. My work here is done. That house is totaled. Now time to move on to bigger things. Now I smash me some mercenaries. He's not going to this turn because he can't reach us. Alright, here we go. We have a level up from Ike. Hopefully we get a better one than last time. Skill, luck, defense. So we were hoping for some speed because that'll let him double more people, but we used what we got. Ooh, nice miss from Oscar. Oh, and he missed. Shame, but he dodged, so that meant he took no damage. So now Ike, he does 7 damage or 10 damage. If he had gotten a strength, he would have killed this guy because he would have done 1 more damage. So it's a little bit of a shame that he didn't get the strength we needed, but it's okay. So we had Boyd just charge up because it's not too important that he, like, is out of range from anyone. We're gonna have Oscar just finish this guy. Even though he does 6 damage to Oscar, Oscar still has 14 health, so he'll be able to handle pretty much anything else. And then we'll have Oscar move up closer. Now one thing that's really important to note is that enemies cannot move through your units. So if you click on an enemy in Path of Radiance, it'll show you their range of attack, where they can attack within. And we see that he can't move through Ike. So that's really important because maybe if you have a weaker unit you want to protect, you can use some of your more bulky units to impede the enemy's way. So like Titania, for example, if she moved here, she would be in front of Boyd, and then none of the enemies could make it to Boyd, if we wanted to do that. Now one thing as well is this guy has an iron sword, and if we look at the letter, it's pink. That means when after he's defeated, the iron sword is given to the player character that defeated him. Now that's something to remember because Ike has all of his weapon slots filled. So if Ike defeats this guy, then we will have to discard, i.e. permanently lose one of the weapons that we have here. So that's something to keep in mind. Now Titania is really good at this point in the game, and in general. As you can see, she has 12 strength, 13 skill, 14 speed. That's much higher than, I mean, that's double Ike's strength and speed, like double all of our characters. She is much, much better. However, she gains a lot less experience when fighting enemies. So you have to balance between using her to take out really tough enemies and making sure she doesn't take all of your experience. So what we're going to do is Ike is going to attack this mercenary guy again. Maybe. So the mercenary guy does 4 to Ike. So if Ike attacks, Ike would be down to 11 HP because 15 minus 4. And then if the mercenary attacks Ike again, he would be down to 7. Now one thing I want to check then is, does Ike take 7 damage from this guy? He only takes 6, which means Ike can attack this mercenary and there's no chance he'll die. Because the other guys just can't do enough damage. Now it might be that this guy then attacks Boyd and does 6 damage, and then this guy attacks Boyd and does 8 damage. Boyd would still survive. He could attack Oscar and do 1, and then this guy could attack Oscar and do 13 attack minus 8 defense. Would be 5. He has weapon triangle advantage, so you have to add 1, which means he would do 6 damage to Oscar. So we'll just move Titania here. No one's in danger of dying. So yeah, this guy attacked Boyd. He attacked Boyd most likely because he has weapon triangle advantage and he does more damage to Boyd. Luckily Boyd hit, and so that guy was defeated. And then Boyd is gonna get the iron sword. Then he's gonna attack Boyd as well, probably because he does more damage to Boyd than anyone else, because Boyd has the least defense. Oh no, Boyd missed. It's okay though. Boyd still is perfectly fine. And so now, one thing I like to think about is who's closest to a level up could like get the kill experience. So in Fire Emblem, you get more experience for killing an enemy than you do for just hitting them. So if you hit them for no damage, in some Fire Emblem games you get 0 experience. In this one you get 1. If you miss, you get 1 experience. If you hit, you get a certain amount of experience that's affected by your level, the enemy's level, and things like that. And then if you kill, you get a certain amount of experience that's also affected by your level, the enemy's level, and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Ike just use 10 times 2, use an iron sword, and weaken this guy to 5 HP, and then Oscar will take him out. Oscar can do 10 damage, and he can double him, so if Oscar misses the first time, he can hopefully hit him the second time. Now one thing I wanted to point out, that Ike is doubling, doing 10 times 2 here, but if we use the steel sword, he does slightly more damage, he does 13, but he doesn't double because the steel sword is heavier than the iron sword. So that's something to keep in mind, is the trade-off between heavy weapons and lighter ones. Alright, and then we'll just finish off with Oscar. Oscar's a really good unit, so I like giving him kill experience so that he can grow well, hopefully, and get level ups. You can never control whether or not they're good level ups, but you can hope that they'll get good level ups. See, he only got 1 speed, which is really sad. And like I said, we could move him. So one thing to think about is, like, Oscar has 8 defense, 14 HP. This bandit, he has 14 attack, so 14 minus Oscar's 8 defense means the bandit will do 6 damage, but the bandit uses axes, so that's weapon triangle advantage, so he does +1, which means he'll do 7 damage to Oscar, which means he won't kill Oscar, because Oscar has 6 attack speed, and the bandit has 2. So that's perfectly fine by me. Boyd needs to use a vulnerary so that he doesn't die. However, one thing we think about is like whether or not Boyd needs to even attack. I want Boyd to attack because he hasn't gotten a level yet. That's not necessary. Now, we see that the place where the boss is, Ch.1, is glowing. That means it's where we need to seize. So when it glows orange like that, you need to have Ike seize that spot. And we'll see how that goes. So yeah, here we go. We got the bandit attacking Oscar. You looking for something, fool? You looking for a fight? You came to the right place. I'll give you a tussle. Yeah, he did 7 damage to Oscar just like we calculated, and Oscar doubled him just like we calculated. And we can see Oscar had 82 hit. So one thing is, like, this is a very dangerous thing to do. Oscar, if the boss hits Oscar, Oscar will die, because the boss will do 7 damage, and Oscar has 7 HP. Now, the boss has 78 hit, which isn't, like, a ton, but it's more than I'm willing to bet on. Now, we could have Boyd run up and attack, but if Boyd attacks, he'll be left with 3 HP, which means that if we don't get Boyd out of there, then he will die to the boss. And so that's something to keep in mind. So what we can do, though, is we could Vulnerary Boyd so that he could withstand 2 hits from the boss, or we could just let Boyd take a hit, and then we can rescue him or shove him out of the way. And so that's what we're going to do. Because then Ike could finish off the boss and continue on. So there's 2 things you can do in this game. One is called shoving. So shoving is when you just push an enemy 1 space away. Another thing you can do is rescuing. So rescuing, you take up your, I guess I said enemy. You can push enemies with shove, and you can also push your player characters. Rescuing is when you take up that character and you're kind of carrying them. So what it does, though, is it halves your speed and your skill. So now Titania only has 7 speed instead of her 14. And then we see who she's carrying. We see it's Boyd. You can still see, like, Boyd's stuff there. Now, one thing to note, though, is that when you rescue someone, you can't drop them on that same turn unless you have someone take that unit and then drop them. So Ike can't take Boyd, but what we can do with Ike is Vulnerary. And so that way Ike can be right in front of the boss, so the boss attacks him on enemy phase, and then he'll survive the first hit and take out the boss on his hit. Hey, you're nothing but a boy. Well, every brat needs a beating now and then. Are you ready for it? Not today. If you want to run away, now's your chance. Imagine that, you sassing me. Don't that beat all? Oh, a dodge from Ike. So we didn't have to Vulnerary because Ike dodged, but if we didn't Vulnerary, we were running the risk of Ike dying. If Ike dies, you get a game over. Ugh, I'm meant for better than this. I don't want to die here. And we defeated the boss. And so you get a lot more experience for killing the boss than you do for killing a random enemy. Now the boss drops his iron axe. What we're going to do is drop the 40 use iron sword. Now the green number is the maximum number of uses of that weapon. The white number is how many uses are left. So every time you strike with a weapon, you have a certain number of uses that are left. What we're going to do is we're going to trade over the iron axe to Oscar, so that's not in Ike's inventory. And then we can just drop there. And then we can just seize. And there we go, Chapter 1 cleared. So there's a lot of math behind the decision making in this game, and that's something to keep in mind when playing. That's the end of it. Ike, are you alright? Yeah, I'll be fine. You know, you surprised me to think you've come this far. Look at my father, though. I've still got such a long way to go. There's nothing you can do about that. After all, Commander Grail is... Huh? What about my father? Oh, nothing. Nothing? Now I'm really curious. Don't worry, you'll learn all about it someday. Stares menacingly. Hey Ike, that wasn't bad for your first battle. Not as flashy as my first time, though. Yeah, you were a real standout. I'll never forget the sight of you so keyed up you broke your own axe. Oscar, dang it, you didn't have to bring that up. Anyway, Ike, congrats on finishing your first mission. Welcome to the group. Everyone's alright? Then let's get going. I'm sure Mist has a nice hot meal waiting for us. That's kind of the flow of this game, is you have some talking before the battle, you do the battle, and then you have some talking after the battle. We'll see a base later on as well. That'll change up the flow a little bit, but not too much. But yeah, thanks for joining us for our Episode 2, Chapter 1 of this Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for Newcomers.